I'm very serious right now. Stop it. It's a little toxic. Please do it. You just chuck it. You don't have to do it. That would be weird. That would be cringy. 안녕하세요, 안녕하세요, it's Natalia, and today we're going to talk about some things to avoid doing when speaking Korean. And if you don't know me, and you're like, who is this girl, and why should I even listen to what she has to say? Well, hi. My name is Natalia. As I mentioned, I've been studying Korean for over 7 years now. I moved to Korea to study Korean at Korea University. I graduated from my program and then got a job in marketing here in Seoul. I feel like you should listen to what I have to say. You don't have to do it. I mean, I think you should do it, but like, it's up to your discretion. Let's not waste any time and let's jump into it. So the first thing is definitely gonna take you some time to adjust to, but I need you guys to stop cringing at words like 언니 and 오빠. I need you to stop cringing. Stop it. And I say this, or rather I bring this up because I used to be one of those people that would cringe at these words. Because before I started learning Korean, I was a very dedicated K-pop fan. I watched a lot of K-dramas. And if you're like me, if you're someone that is not Korean, that is learning Korean, come to learn that there are words that kboos really like to use. And so you come to associate it with being a Koreaboo, being cringy. And in reality, if you are someone that is learning Korean and you're learning it with the goal of coming to Korea, moving to Korea, you need to get over it, because once you get here, those words are not cringy anymore. It's normal, it's expected. When it comes to the word 언니, for example, like I use that word so much and you're gonna hear it a lot. Even as a foreigner, Korean people that you don't know are gonna call you 언니. Okay, when they're trying to be extra polite to you or kind of like buddy up to you, they're gonna call you 언니. Especially the sales associates at places like at a makeup store or a clothing store, especially like the smaller ones that are more like boutique style, they will come up to you and call you 언니, even if it's very obvious that they are older than you. Whenever I'm in a situation where I'm with all Koreans and we're only speaking Korean, for example, I'm thinking of my church that I went to on like a retreat with. Like there were females there that I didn't know their names because I'd never met them before, but everyone was just calling them 언니, so I just called them 언니, and they're just like, yeah, what do you want? Oh yeah, Like it's not weird. Now, when it comes to the word that everyone is super sensitive about, the word 오빠, it's also very normal. Like there are certain guys here in my life that I will just call them by oppa, unless we're speaking English. If we're speaking in English, I'm just gonna call them by their name. But if we're speaking in Korean, I'm not gonna call them by their name. Like it feels uncomfortable for me to do that. So I'm just gonna call them oppa. And it's not weird. What would be weird is if I meet some random guy and then he's like, oh, call me oppa. Like that would be weird. That would be cringy. And that's not just cringy to foreigners, that's cringy to Korean people too. Now I know someone is gonna be thinking about it, so I will go ahead and address it right here. Yes, there are times when using these titles, even in Korea, even when speaking Korean, is cringy. But look me in the eyes right now. You and I both know what those contexts are, especially when you're in it. You know. Before we jump into the second thing that I think you should avoid doing when speaking Korean, I would like to take a moment to talk about the sponsor of today's video, StoryLearning. Ooh, StoryLearning. So if you guys remember, in a recent video, relatively recent video about learning Korean, I mentioned that one of the mistakes that I feel that I made in my Korean language journey was waiting too long to use native content in my studies. Having heard me say that, a lot of you guys started asking me if I knew of any native content that you could use as a beginner. And as I have mentioned before, and I guess we'll mention again, that type of native content is really, really difficult to find. And that is where StoryLearning comes in. So StoryLearning is a platform that helps you learn Korean in context, just like you would with native content. So instead of doing repetition drills, instead of trying to memorize vocabulary lists, you learn Korean with stories. The way it works is you start off every lesson by immersing yourself in Korean content. Then you learn to understand that content through a pre-recorded lesson with a native speaker, and then you go on to practice what you have just learned. As I've mentioned, every single time that I talk about StoryLearning here on the channel, I sincerely feel it's a program or a platform that I would have really enjoyed using had it been around back when I was a beginner many, many years ago. Like, Being a beginner when I was a beginner was not fun. I was constantly lost and constantly confused. Honestly, I'm very proud of myself for continuing to learn Korean, given how I started out. But that makes me ever more excited to share that StoryLearning is running a special Black Friday promotion where you can not only get their Korean Uncovered course for the discounted cost of $97 instead of the regular price of $297. Yes, that's a very large discount. But they're also going to be gifting you their reading masterclass, which is hosted by Ollie Richards and Alex Rawlings. If you don't know who these men are, they are two of the most successful polyglots in the language learning community. So you might be interested in hearing what they have to say in terms of improving your reading skills and the effects that it has on language acquisition. And then they will also be giving you their reading study plan template. Guys, I was really impressed with the course alone. Like, despite the extra gifts they're wanting to give you, the course is really impressive. At least I think it's really impressive. So I encourage you guys to check it out. You can check out the discount and learn more about the course with the link in my description box. The second thing that I would like you to do is to avoid jumping into 반말 with people that you don't really know. As a foreigner, if you go up to a Korean person and say, "Can I speak to you in 반말?" or like no honorifics, they will always say yes, for the most part. Especially if they're around your age, they will most likely say, "Yes, of course you can." I will give my reasons in a second, but please avoid doing that. Like if a Korean person is like, "Just speak to me in 반말," like, "Oh my gosh, 편하게 이야기해도 돼요." Even if you didn't ask, if they just tell you to do that, just keep going with your 존댓말 anyway. And I say this because if you are someone that wants to come to Korea and be seen as more than just like the foreigner that lives here for a year or the foreigner that lives here for like a few years but isn't really Korean, and I say Korean because despite the fact that you are a foreigner, the more you act like a Korean, the better you are treated. The more Koreans, I don't want to say they respect you more, but in a way they kind of do. They start to see you as someone that's part of Korean society. Now, I'm not saying that they will see you as a Korean, because they won't. For Korean people, when they meet someone, despite whether their age is the same or not, they don't say like, "Oh, can I speak to you in 반말? Can I speak to you comfortably? Can I drop all my formalities?" Like, they don't do that to each other. Not even 학생 do that. Like, the only time I've ever seen students who are the same age go into "Can I speak to you comfortably?" as soon as they meet or like soon after meeting is when they're at a 술집 or like they're drinking and they're being flirty. There are times where they don't switch ever to 반말, even though they appear to be really good friends. And then when it comes to people telling you like, "Oh, just speak to me like comfortably," like, "Oh, it's fine," it's usually because they see you as a foreigner. They're in a way, they're kind of saying, whether they think about it this way or they're not, they're kind of saying like, "I have low expectations for you, so you can just like use 반말." Oh, I know there are gonna be people in the comments saying that I'm being dramatic or that I'm wrong, but guys, I'm very serious right now. Like, if you want to come to Korea and be part of Korean society as much as you can while still being, you know, a foreigner, then you should act like a Korean. Alrighty, number 3. Are you ready for it? Because it's kind of like the biggest ask in this whole video. It's the thing that's gonna be the hardest to implement. It's gonna take the most time, but it's the thing that I really need you guys to implement. Like, if you don't listen to me about the 반말, if you don't listen to me about the onion oppa, please at least listen to me about this, okay? Please. I need you guys to stop self-sabotaging yourself when it comes to speaking. Stop stopping yourself from speaking because you are scared of making mistakes, because you don't know enough words for this particular topic, because you're thinking about how you sound like a 외국인 when you speak Korean. Stop. All these negative thoughts you have about like why you can't speak Korean today, stop it. Throw it out the window. Literally just chuck it. All you're doing is delaying your progress. Yeah, I talked about this recently on Instagram, and I mentioned that the way that I actually got myself to start speaking is by telling myself something that it's a little toxic. I'm not gonna lie, it's a little toxic, but I mean it worked for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and share it, and you can decide whether you want to think about it this way or not. The way I got myself to stop doing that was by telling myself like, "Natalia, if you don't start speaking Korean, you're gonna have to start telling people that you've been studying Korean for 2 years and sound like a beginner. You've been studying Korean for 3, 4 years and still sound like a beginner when you speak Korean. You say you're intermediate, but you sound like a beginner when you speak." And that's basically what I told myself. I was like, I didn't want the embarrassment of having to tell people like, "Oh, I've been studying Korean for 5 years, but I still sound really bad when I speak Korean." I didn't want to tell people that. That was embarrassing to me. So that motivated me. That put a fire under my booty. So I started to actually speak Korean. I was like, okay, I will make the mistakes today. Then later down the road when I've been studying for 4 or 5 years, I will actually sound like I've been studying for 4 or 5 years. You don't have to think about it that way. Maybe you just want to think about it as you're self-sabotaging yourself, or that like you should put yourself out there. I mean, whatever way you choose to like motivate yourself into speaking, please do it. Like for me, I'm actually really happy to say that I've gotten to the point where I can speak Korean and I'm not scared or embarrassed. I'm not scared or embarrassed about making a mistake or saying something incorrectly. I will say something and be like, yeah, I know that that sentence was wrong. I know that I used the wrong word because I don't know the right word. I don't know how to like express this thought like a Korean person. I just know how to say it based on my current skills. I feel like because of that, I'm able to be corrected by my Korean coworkers. Like they will tell me, not always, but like they will say like, hey, like, you know, you should have said this word, or like you should word it like this instead, or like, hey, remember that time you said this earlier today in that one meeting? Like actually you should say it like this. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't even feel embarrassed when they correct me. This is gonna sound really dramatic. I feel kind of at peace with that. Like yeah, I can be wrong and I don't feel ashamed about it. And I just want you guys to get there because I feel like I'm able to just learn. There's no embarrassment there. I'm just learning. So that sums up the 3 things I think you guys should avoid doing when speaking Korean. Don't forget to take advantage of StoryLearning's special discount offer right now using the link in my description box. Check out the Korean Uncovered course, the reading masterclass, the reading study template. And thank you to StoryLearning for sponsoring this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. So 다음에 봐요, guys. Bye.